April 1st, Clint.
So it was.
Oh, wow.
It was that
What a
far
drag.
back.
We're rolling, Bobbie.
All right. We're just sitting here chatting, having
That's
a
right.
wonderful time, Cameron Crowe.
Good to see you again, Bobbie.
Great to see you. Great. And thank you for coming to Dallas. We just love having you, and it's a chance to sit down and really talk for more than 2 minutes like at the junkets.
Yeah. No. This is the way it needs to happen. We have some coffee, we catch up.
Yes.
You know, this is the best.
You bet. Elizabethtown. I always know when there's a movie that has Cameron Crowe's name attached to it that it's going to be special, and Elizabethtown is special. And then as I look into the background of it, it's a very personal story, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Tell me, or tell the audience, about how personal it is.
It's a tribute to my father, Bobbie, and I really thought we had a shot at making a movie that was about family and community and Kentucky, which is where he was from, and how out of disappointment and even loss of a loved one can come greatness, greater opportunities, and a celebration of this person that is gone but not, you know, and that's the way I feel about my dad. He's still with us. He was there the whole time we were making the movie, I'm sure of it, beginning with the first day, when odd, beautiful things began to happen randomly that helped us as we were making the movie, like I'd never had happen before in any of my other experiences as a director.
Give me an example.
Well, I always knew that this movie had an opportunity to be a comedy, even though it's at least in the beginning, about loss. So the way the movie was scheduled was it had to work out that we filmed the funeral first. So exactly when you're telling everybody, hey, good to see you. Okay, let's just keep the energy going. We're doing a funeral scene today. I was looking to get this sequence to happen where a casket would drop unexpectedly into the ground. In other words, you know, it fell past the cranking, just hurtling to the ground in the place where Mitch, the father, would be resting eternally. And so I kind of prepared everyone and said, you know, act surprised a little bit when the casket falls, and I'll give you a signal when it's about to happen. Anyway, we started the scene, and it immediately fell 3 times without the guy even touching it, who was supposed to be cranking the casket downward. And everybody just naturally jumped back in shock and surprise. And we all kind of looked at each other and said, well, somebody's helping out with this filming today. So it was one take. We only had to do it once, and it's in the movie. And that was the beginning of feeling that there was a little something extra in the air. Somebody was helping us out.
When your father passed away, your career was just at such a high, and that so much happiness in your life, and then suddenly you get the message that your father has died. And so pick up from there.
It was an interesting thing, Bobbie, because this is the first movie that I directed, Say Anything, and it was really kind of misunderstood by the studio, and you know, that's okay. They slipped it out and was in a few theaters, and you know, it didn't look like anybody was paying much of an attention at all to it. And my dad left and went to Kentucky to visit his brother and family, as he did every year. And while he was there, Roger Ebert and then his partner Gene Siskel discovered the movie, thought it was great, and said it was going to be one of the best movies of the year. Well, this was a shockwave that went through the studio, and all of a sudden we started to have a kind of a campaign for the movie, and we were going to be in more theaters. And I called my dad in Kentucky to let him know that this was happening, and he was thrilled and began to brag to all of his friends, my son is a director, you know. And he passed away suddenly of a heart attack in that same visit. So when I went back to visit and take care of the arrangements, I found that he had been bragging, and he even did an interview with the local paper about his son, the director. And it was just the greatest kind of happy, sad feeling. And to know that I actually did kind of, I was able to continue a career as a director is in a lot of ways a tribute to him. And then the fact that ultimately we would end up making this movie in Kentucky with some of his buddies in the cast, with people that he grew up with surrounding us, I think it just would have tickled him like crazy. Would have never believed it, you know. They let you leave LA and make a movie in Kentucky. The best thing, though, is we showed it in Kentucky 2 weekends ago. And person after person would come up to us and say, you know, thank you for not making a stereotype out of us here in Kentucky. We love it here. It's an amazing place, and we see it in the movie. And it's true.
Being so personal and about your family, what about family members? Have any of them said, now, Cameron, you might have gone a little too far here?
It's a good question. My uncle is, there's a character sort of based on my uncle in the movie, and his son had a fledgling career as a rock guitarist, and nobody really believed that my cousin Charlie was going to take off in that area of life. And the movie sort of takes place in a period of time where nobody is sure whether the uncle is going to find that his son really is a credible musician. Well, in life, my cousin ended up being a guitarist with the group Brooks and Dunn, and has gone on to like real success, which is fantastic. But when we showed the movie in Tennessee recently, I looked in the audience and I saw my uncle and my cousin sitting there, knowing their stories sort of echoed in the movie. And my uncle's kind of a shy guy and a quiet guy, so after the movie I was sort of waiting to talk to him, and he kind of sidled up to me and he said, I enjoyed the movie. I said, thanks, Uncle Don. He goes, more than I thought I would. I said, thanks, Uncle Don, because to him this is big praise. And he said, Charlie's getting a lot of love tonight. And it was beautiful, because later my cousin wrote me and said, this is one of the greatest nights of my life, and I've never felt so close to my dad. So the kind of heroic journey that the cousin has in the movie was echoed in life, and I love that they were able to appreciate it in the movie. It's wild when that happens.
If your father were alive,
Mm-hmm.
what would you ask him, or what would you say to him?
Wow. You know, I'll tell you, here's what I would say to my dad. Thank you for writing letters. He wrote so many letters. All the time of raising our family, he was writing letters. And people valued those letters so much, they kept them. And they showed them to me. Many of them gave them to me while we were back in Kentucky making the movie. And through those letters, I have a record of what was going through his mind on a weekly and daily basis while he was raising us. So I'm able now to go back and look at these letters that he wrote and find out what he was thinking as a dad at my age now, raising us. And it's just a wonderful gift, and it's something for people to remember, I think, in our email age. Write a letter. They don't delete. They live on. And those letters, I would thank him for writing them.
You always have projects going on in your head, I know, but...
You know me, Bobbie. You know me.
Well, you're a writer, and writers always have projects going on in their heads. What are some things that you hope to do in the future?
I would love to do an all-out comedy. I haven't really done one since probably Fast Times at Ridgemont High. And I just love the absolute joy that happens in a theater when everybody's laughing. And there's always comedy in the stuff that I do, and there's lots of comedy in Elizabethtown, but I've sort of reached the point where I just want to really do a flat-out comedy with a lot of characters that just bring you a lot of joy, and you can laugh and live with them. And that's my favorite, when it comes from the characters that you just get a kick out of. And the jokes are all kind of character jokes. It's my favorite kind of thing. So I think I'm going to floor it in that direction next time.
In that genre, is there a movie that you especially like?
Some Like It Hot. Billy Wilder's Some Like It Hot is the example of just a flat-out comedy with great characters. I mean, you know, Marilyn Monroe singing I Want to Be Loved by You, Tony Curtis and Jack Lemmon trying to make it as these musicians in an all-girl band. Come on. Billy Wilder at his peak, you know. Although I love The Apartment, which is also a great comedy, and similar, I think, in tone to Elizabethtown, though probably, obviously, it's my favorite movie because I've talked about it a lot and even written a book about Billy Wilder, where we hail the apartment a lot, and I know you just saw Shirley MacLaine, who will always be Fran Kubelik to me. There's something about Some Like It Hot that just blows an audience sky high because it's so funny, and I'd like to try that next.
Are there any current movies in that genre that you like?
That's a really good question. I haven't, I've sort of been stuck in the editing room with Elizabethtown so much, but a lot of friends of mine told me go see Wedding Crashers because Wedding Crashers actually has a lot of heart to it. So I'll be checking that out soon.
Yeah, I agree with that one. That would be, so many of the current comedies, I love the Billy Wilder era and all, and but that may just be my generation. But I can't find new comedies. I'm sorry, bathroom humor is just not my kind of comedy. And you know, a well-placed joke, fine.
Yeah.
But you know, the whole movie on that stuff. No.
Yeah. Do you like Austin Powers? Did you like the first Austin Powers?
I like the second one better, I think.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's sort of riding the line, I think. He's got great characters and stuff.
Yeah.
And he'll take a quick trip to the bathroom from time to time, in a big way. But that's kind of like a crazy festival of comedy that I like, the Austin Powers movies. But I know what you mean, and I agree. It's just, it seems like in the quest to get the biggest audience, because, you know, it's so important now. You have one weekend pretty much to make your impact. People just go for what's going to be a surefire thing. And sometimes bathroom humor is just, you know, it's going to have an effect, so everybody goes for it. But
especially if you're 13.
Especially if you're 13. But there are also deeper, funnier jokes you can tell in a movie. And people at the studios will tell you, well, you know, it's young males and maybe young girls that come on a Friday night to see your movie, you know. I believe bigger audiences do turn out when they know there's a movie that speaks to them. So that's one of the things I always say when they say, well, why would we make a movie like Elizabethtown? Why should we invest in your story? You know, I'll say because it's a movie about people. And if you hit the note, and there are a number of movies in the last 10 years that really did hit the note, and if you hit the note, that bigger audience will show up. And it's almost like a high-pitched signal that goes out sometimes. You can feel when there's a movie out there that's really going to take you someplace that's a little different. So that's, you know, in my wildest dreams, I'm able to hit that note from time to time, and it's what I go for.
I would say you hit the note all the time.
Thanks, Bob.
Cameron, thanks again for coming, and I wish you great success with Elizabethtown.
Thanks.
And I hope that people will go to see it because I guarantee them a good time.
And I love being in Dallas because I get to see you.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, Bobbie.
You know my all-time favorite comedy.